Welcome to Reclaiming Your Light. I'm your host, Rachel Gossett. This is a space where healing begins with safety. You can take off the mask and discover the freedom of being your true self. Let's begin reclaiming your light. What if the peace you've been waiting for doesn't come when life finally gets easier? What if it comes when you stop needing everything around you to cooperate before you allow yourself to feel it? I just got home a few days ago from a family trip to Delaware with my husband and 4 kids. And let me tell you something. A family vacation with kids is not a fucking vacation. It's a trip. There are tons of bags, there's snacks, there's entertaining, there's the wet bathing suit. Someone needs something every 5 seconds. They're always hungry immediately after you feed them. Somebody doesn't want to go here. Somebody doesn't want to eat there. Everybody wants to go there. People want to eat there. You're trying to make everyone happy. You're trying to make memories while simultaneously wondering why the hell can nobody find their shoes? And I'm going to be real with you. Yes, I lost my patience sometimes. I'm human. But something was a little different about this trip. Now, between all of the noise, all of the work, the overstimulation, the moments where I could feel myself getting activated, I experienced this incredible sense of connection as well. I felt so connected to myself, my family, my intuition, to my mom in spirit. I felt connected to source. And it all started before we ever left our house. Because you know what? We were not planning to take a trip. We weren't supposed to take a trip. That was the plan. We were just going to stay home, maybe do a staycation, take a couple day trips, and that was it. Right? We thought about just keeping it simple, keeping it easy. And something shifted. And what happened when I really stopped gripping, that plan became one of the greatest reminders I've received lately about surrender, self-trust, and what it actually means to allow yourself to be guided. So today, I want to talk about the rainbows, the feathers, the hawks, the butterflies, the repeating numbers, the song that showed up in that right moment. But most importantly, I want to talk about what I had to do in order to actually notice these winks from spirit. Because spirit isn't always being quiet, right? It's spirit is always talking to us. We're just too fucking busy controlling everything that we hear, that we feel, that we see. And we become so disconnected from our inner truth, our intuition. We become disconnected from what our body is trying to say to us, from the signs that are right in front of our face. And like I said, we weren't planning on taking this family trip. We wanted to just keep it simple, stay home, do things locally, enjoy the summer without having to plan this whole big thing. And it just made sense. But My husband and I, we started seeing these little synchronicities. They started adding up and had this deep pull, this desire to take a trip. And we would get these nudges. And it just felt like, you know what? Just take the trip, just go. And I've also come to realize that it is so important to take that moment and to separate yourself from your everyday life and to go somewhere, to be in a different environment, to really come together as a family, to come home to your body. And that's what spirit kept showing me, kept showing my husband. Now, I have spent a lot of my life trying to know before I move, right? I got to know the outcome. I have to know that it makes sense. I need to know that everything is going to work out, right? And here's that control piece that comes in. I have a plan and then I have a backup plan. And you know what? Yeah, I probably have another backup plan just in case, because you just never know. And the reason why I do this, I've gotten better. I've gotten much better. I've gotten much better. But the reason why I did this, the reason why you do this is because control feels safe. It feels really fucking safe. When we know what's going on, there's no surprises. Right? There's no shock to our nervous system. When we release and control, there is so much unknown, and that can make us feel all wobbly. I'm just seeing the Fisher Price, the little people, like the wobbles, right? The wobble people. Spirit is very funny when they bring messages forward. So, yes, control feels safe. And there are times when planning is necessary. Of course, don't get me wrong, we got to plan. I'm not talking about throwing the responsibility out the window and calling it surrender. No, no, no. I'm talking about those moments when you can feel that something is pulling you in one direction while your mind is desperately trying to collect all the evidence to justify it, right? The mind really likes to fuck us up. But we really tried, my husband and I really tried to get out of the mind and feel it in our bodies. And we did. We felt the pull and we listened. So we booked our trip to Delaware the week before. Thank goodness for Airbnbs. We stopped trying to know exactly why we felt like we were supposed to go. And we just trusted that, hey, we don't really need to know the entire answer. And then we got there. And you know what? Those signs from spirit, those spirit winks just started piling up. They started showing up. And I felt like once I stopped gripping so tightly, think of white knuckle gripping, there was space for me to notice. And I noticed so many things. And just like right now, as I'm talking, I'm seeing sparkles. Another sign from spirit. So in Delaware, I saw rainbows. I can't even tell you how many repeating numbers I saw. They were everywhere. White feathers. And these things happened more than once. And there were so many moments when something would show up and I would have this feeling in my body. It was that inner knowing that, okay, I see you. And even at one point, I heard this ringing in my ear. And there's this certain ring that I hear, and I know it's spirit. And then after I heard that ringing, I heard Journey's Don't Stop Believing. And then I was singing, Don't Stop. I won't sing for you. I can guarantee that in the future, though. So I had to laugh in that moment because sometimes the message doesn't need to be a fucking dissertation. Don't stop believing was just the perfect message for me in that moment. And for me to believe in myself, to come home to myself, to trust, to just keep going and to keep allowing things to flow naturally, organically. And I always go back to thinking about water. Rachel, how can you flow like water? Can you flow like water? There were so many other beautiful moments. I saw this butterfly by the pool, and it was, gosh, this beautiful orange and blue on its wings. And butterflies hold this really special meaning for me. It's whenever I see them, I know it's my mom. My mom's near me. And the reason why my mom passed away from complications of lupus, and the symbol for lupus is a butterfly. And there it was. There she was, this butterfly. And in the middle of this trip that we were originally not going to take, and I felt her. And it felt so good to know that she was there with me and my family. And just walking around and looking in the sky, seeing that rainbow, seeing 7 hawks circling above us, and then at least 1 hawk every day after that. These moments weren't meaningful to me because I needed them to prove that I made the right decision. They were there reminding me that I had listened to my inner knowing, that I listened to my inner truth, that this vacation, scratch that, this family trip, if you know, you know, with kids, it is not a vacation. But again, it was just a reminder that I was where I was supposed to be. Now, you could say it's all a coincidence, and that's okay. I'm not here to convince anyone what a sign from spirit is supposed to look like. I'm just here to share my experience and how deeply personal this is for me. And what matters to me is what happens inside of me when I experience it. For instance, when I saw those hawks in the sky, I was present in that moment in my surroundings, taking it all in. I wasn't glued to my phone. I wasn't glued to other things. I was present. I was present enough to look up. And that's really one of the biggest lessons I brought home from this trip. How much do we miss because we're never actually where our feet are? We're physically at the pool, but mentally, we're making tomorrow's list, figuring things out. We're sitting at dinner with our children, but at the same time, not really there, thinking about bedtime, bath time, the whole routine. We're driving somewhere beautiful, But yet, worrying about what's going to happen when we get home. We're asking Source for guidance while being so consumed by our own thoughts that there's no fucking room to hear anything else. And this trip really reminded me to look up, both literally and metaphorically. Now, even the parking spots. This might sound like such a tiny thing, but I absolutely love that it was happening. Every time we would drive somewhere, I started thanking Source ahead of time for the parking spot right next to where we were going. There was no begging, no obsessing, no thinking, oh my goodness, where are we going to park? It's going to be so crowded. I was very playful and trusted. And I put it out there. Thank you for our parking spot. And I shit you not, every single time we found a spot right near where we wanted to be. And it became this joke with my husband, and we would laugh every time. Because I told him, like, the first time we found a spot, because he was all worried. He was in his mind. He's like, we're not going to find a spot near the restaurant, near the beach, or whatever. I was like, no, no, no. I said to God, thank you for the parking spot. And sure enough, we got a parking spot right next to the restaurant that is right next to the beach. And I told him, I said, see, you just got to trust. So then he started doing it every time we went out. He said his little version of a prayer. I said my version of a prayer. And we got the fucking parking spot. And this is really what I mean when I talk about allowing, just allowing things to happen, to not have control over it, to not have the mind be so involved and put out this energy of the opposite that it's not going to happen. And sometimes spirituality gets made into this enormous, serious thing. But for me, in these moments, all throughout my trip, it was connection with Source that happened in the mundane that made it so special, right? And just the everyday, the every moments throughout your day, right? Like in the parking lot, when that song came on, being at the pool with my kids and seeing the seven hawks in the sky, finding a feather on a ground, taking the 2 seconds to not react to my child. It doesn't always have to be something enormous for this spiritual awakening, for recognizing that you are ascending, that you are becoming more connected to Source. It doesn't have to be big. It's all these little things. And these little things continue to compound over time. And it really taught me that it's simply being present enough to recognize all the sacredness that is inside of your life. And now let's talk about the actual family, quote unquote, vacation. Because I don't want to romanticize this trip that it was all rainbows, even though we saw rainbows. I have 4 kids, 13, 6, 6, and 5. And the 13-year-old He takes care of himself. If anything's like pulling teeth to get him to hang out with us, which isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But with the three little girls, the twins who are 6 and their sister who is 5, it's really like having triplets. And holy fucking shit. I always joke that the twins, especially, are my feral cats. And this, reason why I call it trip, because it's not me sitting peacefully by the ocean, meditating, being at peace with myself. And there's rainbows and butterflies and dragonflies, and spirit is whispering sweet nothings into my ear. No, that would be a dream vacation to be sitting peacefully by the ocean. But this family trip was fucking chaotic. We were up at, goodness, most days we were up around 5:45, 6 a.m. Almost everybody except for the teenager. And we were on go mode for the whole day until bedtime. So very overstimulated. Again, I was impatient with my kids. There were moments I could feel that familiar reaction building inside of me. I wanted to hide. I wanted to crawl up into a turtle shell. I really wanted to disappear. And that's a sign for me that, Rachel, you need to pause to take a break. And I'm glad that I'm in that moment where I can recognize that my nervous system getting very overstimulated, being in overdrive, and my body gently yelling at me that I need to fucking pause, that I need to come back into my body and feel and be with what is actually happening right now. So instead of immediately reacting from my own frustrations and whatever else I was feeling inside, I really tried to understand what was happening from everybody's perspective, even my husband. And they were tired, out of the routine of things, right? They were overstimulated. Their bedtime schedules all messed up. They were so excited. They just wanted to do. They were hyped up on sugar with those special treats they got on their trip. And they're kids. They're kids. And I'm their mom. But I'm also a human being having my own experience. And that can be true. And I just really want you to know that you can hold both. Motherhood has really taught me more about duality than almost anything else in my life. I can be incredibly grateful for my children and desperately need 10 minutes where nobody fucking talks to me or touches me. I can love traveling with my family and also think traveling with my children is extremely exhausting. I can be having one of the most beautiful weeks with my family and still lose my patience at 4:30 in the afternoon. I can want to soak up every second of their giggles, of their laughing, of the accomplishments that they did in the pool. But then also want everybody to go to sleep because I need quiet. Even my husband, please go to sleep. Sometimes he is just as overstimulating as my children. And I can experience that overstimulation and joy at the same time. That's the beauty of duality. You can hold both. You don't have to hold one or the other. You hold both. The gratitude and the frustration, the connection and the need for space, the peace and the chaos, they don't cancel each other out. And I think so many women, especially mothers, have been conditioned to believe that if we're grateful, we're not supposed to struggle. We're not supposed to be feeling this shit. Because if we're struggling, then you know what? We're not grateful enough. And you know what I say to that? Bullshit. You can hold both. The goal isn't to become so healed that your children never annoy you. The goal isn't to regulate yourself so perfectly that nothing gets under your skin. The goal isn't perfection because perfection does not exist. For me, healing has looked much more like shortening the distance between leaving myself and coming home to myself. And that is the true work. Through the thick of it all, can you come home to yourself every day? And I know what you're probably thinking, Rachel, I don't have fucking time for that. Well, coming home doesn't have to look like a lot of time. Coming home to your body could be 3 minutes here, 5 minutes there. It's all about taking those small moments throughout your day. And those small moments really compound over time. And you'll see the shift. You'll begin to feel it into your body, and it will become a routine for yourself to give yourself that moment to reconnect. And throughout this trip, I intentionally created those little moments to reconnect with myself. And this isn't because I had so many hours available to do big rituals, because I didn't. And like I said, it's really finding those pockets of time, like noticing my breath. Am I breathing too shallow? Am I breathing deep into my diaphragm? Noticing how my feet felt on the ground. Noticing if my jaw was tightening or if my shoulders were creeping up to my ears. And also taking those moments to pause before responding. Listening when my body was telling me I needed a little space. And every morning, I woke up, I did some things for the kids, for the family. Then I told them, I was like, you know what? It's mommy's movement time. And during that time, I exercised, did mobility, stretching. It was anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. And they honored that. And I'm glad that I could be an example for them that mommy makes time for herself. And there was even a moment when my husband took our girls out and gave me some quiet time. My son was still sleeping, so again, he was not a bother. But my husband knew I needed some space from the girls because they're a lot. So he took them out for me, and I was so grateful for the silence. I even took a salt bath during that time, sat on the deck and just stared out into the bay, listened to the sounds of summer, the birds and the cicadas and the other bugs. And you know that when you're traveling with kids, quiet time becomes a fucking luxury. I was so grateful for the quiet, for the silence. And then when the girls came back home, they were so excited because they had a surprise for me. They got me an iced decaf coffee. Now, it's such a small thing, but I remember, I can feel it in my body still, how loved I felt and how cared for it I felt and how excited my three girls were to surprise me with this gift. And I was there to receive it fully. I wasn't mentally racing towards the next thing. I was in the moment. And that's what coming home to your body can look like. It isn't always lying on a yoga mat, candles burning, listening to some calming music. Sometimes it's just sitting in a quiet house for a few minutes and drinking the coffee your family brought to you. Sometimes it's noticing that you're about to snap and lose your shit at your kids, but you take a breath before you speak. Sometimes it's looking at your children and remembering that they're experiencing this moment through an entirely different nervous system that you are. And sometimes it's allowing yourself to need space without turning that need into guilt. And these tiny moments matter because this is where we really begin to build trust with ourselves. Now, what does surrender actually look like? I think we sometimes imagine surrender as this big spiritual act, or even just dropping everything and be like, well, I'm not going to do anything now, being complacent. And surrender really looked for me on this trip is not needing to do everything according to plan, to not have control over things. It looked like letting those things fall into place. It looked like following the synchronicities that got us there in the first place. It looked like trusting that we were going to get a prime parking spot. It looked like noticing the feather on the ground when I was walking instead of being so wrapped up in my thoughts. It looked like looking up at the hawks in the sky, receiving that butterfly and feeling that connection to my mom, hearing that song in my head, and knowing that it meant something to me. And also taking those moments to pause before reacting with my kids. Surrender isn't only about surrendering to source. It's surrendering the version of the moment you thought you were supposed to be having. And I know that is fucking hard. I know for me, it is hard because of just some of my lived experiences, the programming, the conditioning, right? Not really trusting. And it can be really hard as a mom too, because we feel like we need to be on all the time and we need everything planned out and everything has to go according to plan. And we get so caught up in that. And we create these images in our minds that we're going to have this beautiful day. We're going to have fun. We're going to have memories. Everyone is going to be great. But then, you know what? I got my one kid throwing tantrums, losing her shit. I have the other kid who can't stand the smell of seafood at the restaurant. So she complains the whole time and she is pinching her nose while we're eating. I have the other one losing her shit because she is so tired and exhausted. And I'm sure there's a moment where if you were in that situation, you would be thinking, can we just please have fun? Do you realize how I planned this whole thing out for you? But I didn't think any of that on the trip. And, but I've been there in the past. I definitely been there in the past. But how much suffering comes from the actual moment? And how much comes from fighting with the fact that the moment isn't matching the picture in our head? Right? I just want to let that sit. I'm going to say that again. How much suffering comes from the actual moment? And how much comes from fighting with the fact that the moment isn't matching the picture in our head? I know, right? Deep. And as I'm saying this, it just reminded me, we went out for ice cream and Elaine was loving her peanut butter ice cream. And she was loving it so much that it was all over her face, all over her clothes. When she drank her water, it looked like she took a bath in her water bottle. And there was a moment where I almost got upset because she made such a fucking mess. But then I stopped myself and I told myself inside in my mind that she's enjoying herself. Let her be messy. It's okay. You have a change of clothes in the car. And moments like this is what freedom actually looks like when you can surrender to the idea that things need to be a certain way, that things need to look a certain way, that things need to happen a certain way. And for a long time, I used to think that freedom would come when I had everything figured out, when I healed enough, when life was stable enough, when everybody around me was okay, when I knew what was coming next. But I really, on my healing journey, have really began to understand freedom differently. Freedom for me is being able to remain connected to myself when things don't go according to plan. It's being able to experience the frustration without letting it consume my entire day. Freedom is letting the joy exist alongside the difficulty. Freedom is not requiring certainty before I trust myself. It's knowing that I can hear my intuition better when I stop drowning it with control, when I finally release. And maybe I think this is why all of these signs felt so significant for me. Because I don't think the transformation really was the rainbow, the feathers, the hawks, the butterfly, the numbers, the glorious parking spots that we got. What the transformation was for me was the woman that I've become who is present enough to notice them. The question I want to leave you with, I really want you to get curious with this. What are you trying so hard to control right now that you may not be leaving any room for life to meet you? I'm going to say it again because I think it's really important for you to get curious with this. Let it sit, let it marinate in your body. What are you trying so hard to control right now that you may not be leaving any room for life to meet you. For example, it could be motherhood, your career, your relationships, your healing journey, the next move, something you're creating. You're waiting until you know exactly how everything's going to unfold before you allow yourself to take that next step. Or maybe your life is already giving you those invitations to soften, to listen and come back to yourself. But you're moving so quickly that you haven't noticed. You're so high functioning, overthinking, perfectionism, people pleasing, anxiety, so disconnected that you're not getting the messages. Now, listen, I'm not asking you to stop planning your life. What I am asking you is to notice when planning turns into gripping. There's a big difference there. And also when your responsibility turns into fear, when your thinking turns into overthinking, when trying to create safety through control actually disconnects you from the only place you've ever really been able to find it, and that's within yourself. So for today, go ahead and loosen your grip just by 1%. Take that breath. Pause before you react. Notice what's around you. Tune into your body. What is she saying to you? Let the moment be different from the one that you planned. Allow the joy to exist beside the really hard, crunchy shit. And most importantly, leave a little room for life to surprise you. Those unexpected moments, opportunities, abundance. Because newsflash, you do not need your entire path illuminated. You just need the light here, right now, in the moment. And with each step that you take. And to hold the trust. To hold that within. Now, this trip was beautiful. It was messy. It was loud. It was exhausting. It was joyful, spiritual, and all incredibly human. And that's fine that it wasn't a true vacation of relaxation, because I'm not in that season right now with my family. And that's fine. The season that I'm in right now with my family is beautiful just the way it is. And even times when they get really fucking hard and tough, I wouldn't want to erase any part of it. That's life. That is the beauty of life. Life is fucking good. We don't have to wait for the chaos to disappear before we experience the magic. The magic is happening right in the middle of it. I just saw a tornado in the movie Twister. It's happening in the fucking storm, the magic. We just have to be present enough to see it. So take some time today to find those magical moments. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It truly means more than you know. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd follow the show, leave a rating or review, or even share it with someone you love. Every listen, every review, and every share helps this message reach another woman who may be ready to come home to herself. Before you go, let's take one deep belly breath together. Breathe in through your nose, allowing your belly to gently rise. And slowly exhale, releasing anything you no longer need to carry. One more time. A deep breath in and a slow, gentle breath out. Remember, healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about creating enough safety to remember who you've been all along. Until next time, keep reclaiming your light.